Yes, you just heard the big voice guy tell you this is the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles, part of the CLNS Media Network. We're going live, baby. We're live today. Live. Sure, we'll do it live. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, Greg, let's jump right into it. I want to start with some news. So just a little while ago, we found out that Jabrill Peppers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, yes, of course, will be coming to Gillette Stadium week 3 of this season. Deshaun Elliott, safety for Pittsburgh, sprained his MCL last week. They go out and get Peppers. Just your general thoughts on Peppers to the Steelers, and apparently the Patriots having to play against Jabrill next week.
Yeah, that's already. Like, I forgot. For some reason, I had it in my mind that it was later. Look, good for Jabrill. I think he's a perfect Steeler. I think that he will fit what they do, just fine as far as the Patriots and what they do. And I know I heard some of this reaction on Twitter, like, oh, you think Jabrill Peppers couldn't have helped in this game, or he's at home laughing. I thought that the way the Patriots played defense in that game, and we'll get into it in a second, but the way they played defense in that game sort of explained to me why Jabrill Peppers isn't here. Now, I'm not saying the Patriots played well in space and the amount of pressure that they put on their safeties. They did not. They had issues. The entire team had issues. But if the Patriots are going to play like that in the back end, a lot of man-to-man and picking people up and, pressure in the front and zone blitzes, like it's not Pepper's bag. He's more of a, physical. If he's just playing safety and reading or playing, nickel linebacker, like that's fine. I just think at this point in time in his career, Jabrill's just not quick enough to play what the Patriots want to play. Now, I'm not saying it's good at this point, but if this is the way they're going to play, it's not a fit for Peppers.
All right, before we get into offense, defense, more detailed thoughts, I just want to look at this big picture from Mike Vrabel's standpoint, Greg. It's only week 1. It's going to take time to establish certain things. But do you think he failed to establish that identity that he wants to establish week 1 from what you saw?
Yes, I do. And to me, this overarching game, I think that, a couple of things. I thought they were outplayed in all 3 phases. I will say, actually, the hierarchy of sort of disappointment that I had in the 3 phases was special teams number 1.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to be really good and missed field goal, a couple of horrible punts, some penalties. It just can't happen. Not on a team like this, sort of at a talent deficiency compared to other teams. Then I would say the defense. I mean, 9 pass plays of 20 plus, another one of 19 yards. Like, you're not going to win many games like that. And then I would say the offense, and now you could say the offense, you're worried more about the offense or Drake Maye, and that's fine. But like, as far as your expectations coming in, you figured they'd be good on special teams, pretty good on defense. Now you can look at the points output and say, well, they did their job. Yeah, but I mean, I think if you're grading on a curve for week 1 and you look at what's going on around this league in terms of where the offenses are, look at what the Bengals did on Sunday, with Burrow and Chase and T. Higgins and all these guys and all this continuity on there. They had like 140 yards of offense and they found a way to win the game. The Vikings last night, I didn't see a whole lot of the game. I know it was a really good fourth quarter, but they kind of stunk up the joint, but their defense kept them in the game, and I'm sure Caleb Williams had something to do with that. So you can be a bottom line person and say, well, the defense did their job, 20 points or whatever. It just, the amount of big plays was just too much. I'm not sure if I answered your question. Getting back to it.
He did. Yeah, Vrabel didn't get to the identity. And by the way,
the identity. But the big thing, Nick, is, and this is something I asked, Mike about on Friday. This is something we talked about during training camp. I just don't think Mike Vrabel, and I don't know if it bothers him or not, but to me, he was not building a team for week one. I think Drake Maye last year was building a team for week one. We're going to be ready. We're going to run the hill. We're going to do all these things. We're going to take them to the hill. I don't know if it's by design. We'll have to see. But Mike Vrabel has now lost his 4 straight season openers. From his comments on Friday to my question, didn't seem like anything that he's doing was not right. But I think after this performance, 4 losses in a row, Mike Vrabel, whether it's by design or not, does not have his guys ready for week one. And I thought the Raiders were more ready to go. I thought they had a clear identity. I thought the Patriots were all over the place in terms of their offensive approach, their defensive approach, too much stuff on the menu for opening week. And, that led to a loss. So I think if you're looking for blame as far as this week one loss, then I would put Mike Vrabel at the top of the list because he's in charge. He's getting this team ready. He's setting the direction of the game plans, and I just don't think that they were ready to go. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be not ready to go next week or going forward, but for week one, if you're into one-game seasons, I thought Mike Vrabel was not at his best going into this game.
I thought the first half, they were fine. I really did. I thought, you had almost 200 yards of total offense. The defense after that first drive, which was a debacle, the third down call, dropping Barmore and Williams into coverage, getting, way too fancy pants on a 3rd and 11. Hawkins flat-footed, giving up the TD over the top. But they settled down. The defense was borderline dominant after that first drive in the first half, and the offense just lacked execution in a couple of different places. And they should have had 13 points at halftime if it wasn't for Borregales missing the 40-yard field goal attempt. The second half is when things got derailed. The second half was a debacle, especially offensively. Special teams wasn't good all day. But I do think the first half was better. Second half, it was a mess. Let's get to Drake Maye, though. What'd you see, Greg, when you're watching Drake on the film and you're looking at this from 30,000 feet? Because we could sit there, and I'm sure you're going to talk about some of the things that Drake needs to improve on. I've touched on a few of those things at Locked On Patriots. But overall, is Drake more of a project in year 2 than some people or most people might have thought?
Yes, I think that's quite evident at this point. And I think that especially the switch to a new system in year 2, people got to remember, and I'm sure there will be comparisons to like what J.J. McCarthy did last night, and that's fine. I mean, even though the Vikings are a lot more talented, have a lot more continuity. I mean, but with just as far as Drake Maye goes, he's still a rookie. This is like his 10th start in the league. This was the first time he started a season opener in the National Football League, and you might want your quarterback to, hit quicker and show the it factor, and we got a guy like, and I understand that. It's just like not everybody's the same. I mean, I'm going to use the Josh Allen comparison, a lot because, and I'm not saying he's going to be Josh Allen. I don't know. But, Josh Allen, his rookie year, he was in the bones of this offense with Brian Daboll. He was his offensive coordinator in 2018. He was 5-6. He didn't even complete 53% of his passes. He had 12 interceptions, 10 touchdowns. So that's where Josh Allen started from. I would say Drake's starting at a better place. And, if he was just a little bit more accurate in this game, had like another 4 or 5 completions, Demario Douglas doesn't drop a ball right in his hands, all of a sudden we're talking about, well, he's like completing like 75% of his passes. And now look, not a lot of big plays, and we had the turnover, and you had the fumble and almost another fumble. And I understand all that. But where Drake Maye is right now, I think he just turned 23. I'm sure there are people who would be like, I don't want to hear about the young quarterback thing anymore. But going into a new system in year 2, to me, I look at him as he is a rookie quarterback. And he's going to need a lot of things around him, pass protection, a running game to help him get on his feet and get going. But I'm not dismayed. I think a lot of what we saw on Drake was the same stuff we saw in the preseason that I brought up, the stuff that I'm concerned with. But in terms of what you're talking about, is he more of a project than I think a lot of Patriots fans want to believe? Yes, I think that is the case.
What doesn't help Drake is that if you look at the class he's a part of, you've got Jaden Daniels, who had the season he had last year, and you got Michael Penix, who looked good against Tampa, looked pretty good at the end of last season. And you mentioned J.J. McCarthy in the second half last night. But when you look at Penix and Daniels, we have to make sure that everybody understands those guys are much more mature from a football standpoint than Drake is. Like, Drake was the young guy of the bunch to go along with JJ. They were the young guys of the bunch, did not play a ton in college. They also had to deal with the COVID season, lost a season of high school football. It's going to sound like excuses, but it's not. It's, when you look at quarterbacks, Alex Barth of 98.5 has done a really good job of this. He's kind of mapped out some of the young quarterbacks in the league, and he will argue that it takes usually about a year and a half, and it's usually halfway through that second season in the NFL where you start to really see who a guy is going to become. And we're not there yet. I mean, we're not there yet. So with the idea of the new scheme and, a lot of the different players around him, I'm not shocked that Drake wasn't awesome on Sunday. And I think some of the little things, Greg, I want to ask you about, some of the things that I noticed, he's still leaving the pocket at times way too early. He's still a little bit too jittery. He's still spraying the football on some of these easy throws. There was a Hunter Henry throw on first down when Henry is wide open, easy completion to move the chains. He misses him, ends up being a 3-and-out. So there's some of those inaccuracies, some of the sloppiness with the footwork and kind of just the moving around the pocket presence, awareness, wanting to scramble. Did you see the same thing? And some of the other, maybe you saw other little things about his play on Sunday that you say they're just not there yet.
Yeah, it's just it's similar to what we talked about in the wake of the Vikings preseason game, where a lot of people weren't alarmed. They thought I was overreacting. And, I started talking about, I just don't know how much of a perfectionist Drake is at this point. And, I'm going to assume he's going to get there at some point. I just don't see it in his game right now in terms of, taking the off season. Like I'm going to probably read up on this more, but last night, all of a sudden I got down a rabbit hole looking at like stuff about Josh Allen and what he does in the off season and things like that. And, he's worked a ton with Jordan Palmer every off season. And, and Jordan Palmer has talked about how that Josh Allen is a mechanical freak, like even about his golf swing. Like he wants to analyze everything and like he's always getting better. I don't know. I'm going to ask more questions about this going forward. I don't know if that's Drake Maye. I don't see that in his game. I don't see development of his motion. I still have a lot of issues with that. Just little things like you said, I mean, the first throw to Pop Douglas, just pitter patter of the feet, moving his feet. It's the same stuff he was doing at North Carolina when he would miss easy passes. There's also like little things like play fakes that he's gonna have to get better at. And I'm still surprised, like being with Jacoby Myers last year, Josh Dobbs this year, those guys are really good play fakers. And it can really help you. And I'm surprised Drake hasn't noticed that. I mean, I notice it in practice, like when Drake goes out there and basically, especially in the Patriots practices, each quarterback will run like the same set of plays. And so Drake will go out there and then Josh Dobbs will go out there. And Josh will run this really good play fake, and all of a sudden the guy's like wide open. And Drake, you see it, like some of his play fakes aren't very good. Some of his RPO fakes the other day, riding the mesh a little bit longer before, going with the ball. Now, all this stuff is very new to him. And I think that's really where I'm at. That I think, the footwork stuff, I think he's going to have to work on that in general. And I know they work on it in practice and they run the drills, but he's also, the more he gets into game action in this system, then goes back and watches the film and he sees some of the things that Josh is trying to do in terms of like 2-man routes. There were a lot of those where Hunter Henry's going underneath and maybe Pop Douglas or Steph Diggs is going, on the high concept. And, Drake, as part of this offense, if they're in zone, you're reading this linebacker or safety, and whichever way he points, then you rip it to the other guy. And I think he just doesn't trust it yet. I don't blame him for that. I just these guys just don't have enough live reps. Drake doesn't have enough live reps in this offense to trust it. And when you trust it, then your feet start to quiet. And so that's what I saw on Sunday. I didn't see a guy whose mind is too cluttered, that this is too advanced for him. There's too much on his plate. I didn't see that. I just saw a player who hasn't been in that situation before with, really running scheme, live guys who can tackle you, like all that stuff. And I just think he was a little jittery, but I think that's just a lack of reps than who we might inherently be.
You talk about the mechanics, you talk about Josh Allen. I thought on Sunday Night Football, they spent a good amount of time talking about Allen and the corrections he's made, and Chris Collinsworth broke it down. And I got to tell you, I had the same thoughts that you had. I'm asking myself the same questions of like, have we really seen that much of a change? Now, of course, Allen has had years to work on his mechanics, and he continuously works on them. And we know that Brady was the same. I mean, Brady was just maniacal when it came to working on making his arm stronger and his mechanics and all the little things Brady would do. And you do wonder, because so far you don't see the dramatic change with Maye. All right, I want to get to a lot more offensive line, Travion Henderson, more on the offense, more on the defense. But first, Greg wants to tell you about Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. I had my picks in this week. Got to tell you, I haven't looked back at them because I've been too busy watching the film. But I had my picks in. Thursday Night Football, Patriots game. I think I did all right. But I can't wait to do it again this week. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite baseball players, hockey season's coming up, esports, much more. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. That's today. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you're watching us live right now on YouTube. Wherever you're watching, hit that like button. Help us out with the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching the show on CLNS, maybe on demand, go ahead and make sure that you subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel, where you can find this show and a lot of other great Patriots content. Also, check out Greg and Mike Giardi and company over at BSJ, Boston Sports Journal. $50 for the year. Bedard, Giardi, tag teaming the Patriots with film. Best sources around. Check them out. All right, offensive line, Greg. What'd you see? How'd you grade them? And especially, I would like you to start with Will Campbell, because I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel like there's a certain agenda from certain people out there, whether it's in the media, outside of the media. There is a contingent of people that I feel like every time Will Campbell has a bad snap, it is going to be tweeted about. It's going to be yelled about, arm length, this and that. I thought Campbell was solid, but you are much better breaking down the offensive line. What'd you think of Campbell, and what'd you think of his teammates up front?
So I thought Yeah, I think solid is the right word to use with Campbell. I thought he had some really good reps. He got beat a few times. I think that, people need to keep in mind that, the first time out, I mean, they played 70, including penalties. They played 71 total snaps. I think there were 54, pass protection reps, which is just absurd. So 3.5 total quarterback pressures and 54 dropbacks, including penalties, is not that bad at all. I thought he gave up a half a sack. I think it was the strip sack.
Yeah.
But that was Ramondre Stevenson was involved in that. Like, he's supposed to help and he didn't really help, and then he shoved Kuntz into Will Campbell, and now he's at a disadvantage. So there was some of that. I thought that, of course, he had the 2 penalties, and not ideal at home, because it's only going to be worse on the road. But he'll get better at that. But I thought I was probably more disappointed in him and Jared Wilson, their work in sort of the run game on double teams. The Raiders' defensive line was a lot better than I thought they were going into this. They really jumped a few gaps that the Patriots didn't anticipate. Again, not much film to go on. You try to prepare for what you can. I think, all those guys will be better. They weren't very good in the run game. There were, Michael Wenu, for the most part, played pretty well, but his poor plays were really ill-timed and not very good, and he had some really bad reps. He's not moving very well, on screens. They pulled him once. It was not very good. So I'm a little bit alarmed at that. I don't know what kind of shape he's in still. He looks heavy to me. I thought Bradbury was way better than I thought he was going to be. Didn't do much in the run game, but clean sheet and pass protection. I thought Morgan Moses, especially with the amount of snaps that he played, which surprised me a little bit. At one point, I did see Marcus Bryant warming up on the sideline, but he ended up not going in. But I thought he did a good job for the most part against Max Crosby. Of course, the one time he really makes a play is on the interception. That's unfortunate. But I thought the offensive line, was solid. The run game thing is, disappointing. Just sort of individual failures here and there. But I thought for the first time out, I thought the group did pretty well.
The lack of a run game was stunning to me. And, going into the season, you and I talked about this, like the offensive line, if you look at it, the resume is most of these guys are good run blockers. Like Campbell showed that he's a really good run blocker most of the time in the preseason, what he did at LSU. And Jared Wilson's a very good athlete. Now, there's some of the play strength stuff you've talked about that you question there, but Garrett Bradbury is a much better run blocker than he is a pass protector. You would think Owenu can get the job done. Moses is pretty, agile in short spaces and does a decent job. Mm-hmm. And you got the running back room that I think is a good running back room going into this season. And they just were absolutely incapable of running the ball. And then in the second half, Greg, I know Vrabel said, look, we were inefficient, and that's why they didn't run the ball. But to have zero commitment in the run game in the second half, I thought was an interesting approach by Josh McDaniels and company.
Yeah. I did. I did like some of the things that they were doing in the pass game. I mean, like, it seemed like they basically said at halftime, and Vrabel would be involved in this. It's not just Josh McDaniels. Mike Vrabel's the head coach. So they follow the direction of the head coach. And I think they said, let's spread them out a little bit more. I think that some of the issues also in the run game, the Raiders decided at some point to match the Patriots 11 personnel, one running back, one tight end, 3 wide receivers with base. And that's just not advantageous to run into. And the Patriots, maybe could have gone a little heavier. I don't know if they prepared for that. I think they thought like you and I did. I thought they weren't going to have any trouble running the ball. in this game, and credit to the Raiders. Like, you know, but I think some of that has to do with there's no film on these teams. Like, you have no idea what to expect with, is it going to be Patrick Graham's defense? Is it going to be Pete Carroll's defense? And I think it was sort of a mix. I would say it was mostly, I would say it was a mix. And, you know, but I do think, look, Drake came out, and on the first drive, when they started to spread things out a little bit more, he was dealing. He had, like, you know, what, 5 or 6 completions before the interception. They were using some shorter passes as I think an extension of the running game, which you will get with some coaches where they're like, all right, well, we didn't have that many reps, but, you know, we threw the ball to Travion Henderson, you know, a couple times. There were a couple, you know, with that, there were a couple poor plays, like Travion Henderson didn't run the right way on a screen that could have hit. So, yeah, you could certainly make the argument that they should have tried running a little bit more. But, you know, I don't have a huge problem with what they did.
I did not like the usage of Travion Henderson. And I understand that there are people out there, and I see this a lot from the fan base, who say Henderson's got to be the lead back. He's got to be the bell cow. Listen, I think if you have been watching or listening to this podcast leading up to the season, if you've been watching my stuff on Locked On Patriots, we've discussed this a number of times. Henderson is not the guy who's going to get 70% of the snaps. He's not that guy. If you think he's that guy, you don't have reasonable expectations. He is at his most effective when he splits time. That was the case at Ohio State. He had his best season when Judkins, you know, was a guy who could split with him. And you take him off the field from time to time because he tends to wear down as well. He's not the biggest dude in the world. So if you're expecting Travion Henderson to get 25 touches a week, it's unreasonable. Just erase that from your mind right now. He had 11 touches on Sunday. Here's my issue, Greg. Number one, in the first half, he played, I think it was like 25 snaps. In the second half, he played like 15 snaps. I've got issue with that, because if you're going to throw the football, if that's the plan in the second half, Henderson needs to be out there. Stevenson was a train wreck multiple times in pass protection. When you mentioned the chip earlier, he missed a couple of blitzes. He was a disaster. So if you're going to throw the football and spread them out, Henderson should have more snaps in the second half than the first half. Secondly, I couldn't stand the way they used him. If you're going to throw the football to him in the flats, if it's going to be check down Charlie and the occasional screen pass on predictable calls, like when it's 1st and 20 or 3rd and 17, which were 2 of the screen calls when everybody, including myself, knew a screen was going to Henderson, including the Raiders, he couldn't get anywhere. If he's going to be the check down captain of the world and he's going to catch 1 or 2 screens, what the hell are we doing? So that's my biggest issue. It's not the 11 touches. It's the balance or imbalance of playing time from half to half. And the way they utilized him, to me, was just way too vanilla. And I'm sure there are some reasons on certain plays why they looked vanilla. But, man, you got to be a little bit more creative, Josh, when you got somebody like Henderson. You got to find him ways to get the ball, and you got to figure it out instead of just these dump passes in the flat, these swing passes. To me, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough for week 1.
I mean, it's fair. I mean, I will point out, so I don't know how many screen passes technically. I know 2 are in my mind. There was one that he caught that didn't go very far, and Henderson completely screwed that up. For whatever reason, he saw Adam Butler and cut back up, where all he needed to do was stay outside, and he picks up probably like 10 or 12 yards. There was another screen pass where Jermaine Pratt was right in Henderson's lap. It was like the only time Jermaine Pratt did not drop. There was at least one swing pass to Henderson where Maye was late on it. He double clutched. If he got the ball to him quicker, he has a chance in space to make somebody miss and make a play. To me, that was on Drake. I think it was him. Drake also threw a pass slightly behind him that limited his usage. And I think also part of it was the Raiders, other than the handful of times they sent all-out blitzes, they dropped into zone coverage. And
Yes.
I don't know if they were really, prepared for that. I don't know if that was a surprise to them, but that also sort of, limits your effectiveness where, they're taking away any deep stuff and you got to take the underneath stuff. And, Drake wasn't exactly great at that, whether it was to the running backs or Diggs or Demario Douglas. So I think all of those were factors. Your points are valid. I think it's something they will adjust as they go on. But for openers, yeah, a little underwhelming, but I do think Henderson and also Drake Maye factored into some of that.
All right, we got to get to the defense. We got to get through this. I would love to talk about the wide receivers and the tight ends, but Greg has an article up at BSJ. You can check it out. I do want to ask you one more offensive question before we get to the defense. Overall, offensively, I thought there was a lack of creativity, Greg. There was a lack of, motion, for example, pre-snap, and that's been kind of a calling card of Josh over the last, his OC career, which is he doesn't necessarily live on motion and tends to call less of it than a lot of other coordinators. I just thought there was a lack of creativity. There were a few runs that were different, and they weren't the best. That you saw some of the speed option stuff, for example. I did think that the fake tush push was a great call by Josh, and it worked out well. But overall, the offense, I think it was a little vanilla. My question, do you agree? Secondly, is it because we're so early in the season, and do you think that McDaniels is trying to kind of spoon feed everybody what's going on right now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people need to keep in mind, and this goes for the team as a whole, but also, the offense. I mean, there are, what is it? Like six new guys, that are in this offense, including 4 offensive linemen. You got a rookie in Travion Henderson. You got a quarterback that's new in the scheme. You have some new wide receivers. I just think that it's imperative on coaches, and this will also go to the defensive side when we talk about that. It's imperative on the coaches to run what your guys can execute, what you've repped in practice. And I think, this offense, you just keep layering on as you go along. And, I do think a lot of it, there weren't very many shot plays. I mean, I think, a lot of it had to do with they didn't know what to expect from the Raiders at all. And it's not like the Raiders were, blitzing a ton like the Patriots were to give them opportunities down the field. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, for a quarterback to be decisive when he knows it's man-to-man and where to go. And Drake, where he is right now, it's a little bit muddled when it's more zone like the Raiders were on Sunday. I just think it's a week 1 type of thing. I thought there were some plays that could have hit if they were executed better, and you just got to see where they are week 1 and then just build on it.
Yeah, and we have to, and of course, people are going to say, you're just making excuses. I think I have been critical a number of times already on this episode, but I will remind people, and it's week 1, and I was watching, I think it was Mark Sanchez and somebody else calling a game on Sunday, and Sanchez had mentioned, and I think a coach said this, and Sanchez agreed with him, there's no more dramatic of a change from what you see from a team than there is week 1 to week 2. Like, because of what Greg's talking about, the lack of film, you don't know really what to expect until you get out there. Like the Patriots, you're going against the Raiders defense. Is it going to look like a Patrick Graham defense? Is it going to look like a Pete Carroll defense? Is it going to be a blend? How much are they going to play in their base? How much are they going to play? How much are they going to blitz? And so the significant difference between week 1 and week 2, it's massive. And you will see teams play differently week 2. We don't know if the Patriots will be one of them. All right, I want to move to the defense, but first, an important note. This Thursday, of course, is September 11th, and Boston joins the 9/11 Memorial and Museum's tribute in light, born in New York as twin blue beams over lower Manhattan. At dusk, landmarks across Boston and Cambridge will glow blue. From City Hall, Fenway Park, and the Prudential Tower to the Zakim Bridge, the Hub on Causeway, Berkeley Performance Center, and more. The tribute, now in its second year, was spearheaded by our friends at Gupta Media in Boston. Take a minute to step outside, look up, and remember the lives lost and all who were forever changed. Boston, of course, remembers. All right, let's get to the defense, Greg. How did the Raiders finish with 9 plays of 20-plus yards?
I will get to that because I think I need to do game time. Yeah, NFL season's back, and you got to be there in person. It was a good atmosphere. I know people are talking about the Patriots can't win home games. Had nothing to do with the fans. I thought they were in good spirits. Even with the rain, you got to get there through Game Time. The Game Time app gives you the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. It's incredibly easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get the 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best place. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. I just used it a couple weeks ago to the Red Sox game. It was so easy. I got a great deal on great seats because they show you the zone deals and all that stuff and how it's a top 1% of deals in the stadium. Got it. I was there for a big pitching matchup. It was awesome, and it was easy. Took me about 4 minutes from the app, getting the tickets, hooking it up to the MLB app, getting my tickets in there, putting them in my wallet. It was so easy. And once I got to the stadium, it was very easy to use. They have seat views on there. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. So yeah, the defense.
Okay. 9 plays of 20-plus yards. How's that happen?
Way too aggressive in terms of the play calling. I mean, let's just talk about, the first series of the game, Nick, the touchdown to Trey Tucker. It's 3rd and 11.
Yeah.
And they ran a play, and I don't know if they talked about this on the TV broadcast or what, but they ran a, zone exchange where Christian Barmore and I think it was Milton Williams, another defensive tackle, all of a sudden they dropped and they were the middle linebackers.
Yep.
On 3rd and 11, like if you want to, maybe on 3rd and 5, something like that where you think they might throw to the sticks short, like a quick hitter. You want to surprise them, and there's Barmore catching the ball, like Vince Wilfork or something. Fine, but 3rd and 11, I just thought that they were way too aggressive in this game with a lot of their play calls. There was too much on the menu. It was like a Cheesecake Factory menu in terms of one time they sent 2 corners, and like Geno, people could say what they want. I picked the Raiders in this game partly because of Geno. Geno is, and maybe this isn't for a whole season, but
he's
there are he is, like, I remember, I think it was last year before the Patriots played them, or some point they played Geno Smith, and I remember watching his film, and to me, he is one of the best in the league, and I mean this, he is one of the best in the league at standing in the pocket and delivering the ball. Like, pressure might be coming, you think you're going to get him, Geno just keeps waiting, unleashes the ball at the last second. He's very accurate. Geno was just really good. And all the blitzes that the Patriots ran, he ate their lunch. Like, his stats on the blitz were absurd. And so you could say, like, they had to send extra people to get pressure, to get off the field because the 4-man rush wasn't working. I just thought it was way too much, way too early for this team. They weren't ready to. It's fine. You could do it on the practice field all you want, but that's not really game speed. It's not stadium speed. And I just don't think the Patriots were ready to execute at that level, and they just bit off way more than they could chew.
It felt like Terrell Williams has been standing on the sidelines throughout his long career as a positional coach. This was his first shot at calling a defense, and baby, he wanted to cook. He was like, I got this pressure. I got that pressure. Let's drop Barmore and Williams into coverage on 3rd and 11. Let's go. I've been waiting for this day. It's like if you ever see the gif of the dude who's wearing like the yellow suit and he's behind the tree and he's like rubbing his hands and licking his lips. That was like Williams. He couldn't wait to call a defense. He could not wait to try to get all exotic. And it was overload. It's like, Terrell, calm down. Take a breath, bro. Relax. We don't need it all in one game, okay? You're going to be back next weekend to call a defense. You don't have to throw all of your blitzes out there day one. Like, chill. Relax.
I know, and you're exactly right. And, like, the thing is, like, you have to understand, like, what personnel you have. Like, Kevin Byard ain't back there. Amani Hooker isn't back there. This isn't the Titans defense. Jalen Hawkins is a fine player, but the positions that they put him in were just ridiculous. And unless you have like an all-pro safety, some of that stuff isn't going to work. Now, at least they have it on film now. They can go back, they can evaluate. I don't think Hawkins was, terrible or anything. I mean, but that, the 26-yard touchdown, I mean, what's he supposed to do? Trey Tucker can run, and you're expecting the pressure to get there, and it didn't get there. But you're exactly right. Like, Terrell Williams, he's like, I'm throwing the kitchen sink out there, baby. First time, here we go. And I was dizzy from watching it.
It was like Christmas morning for Williams. He couldn't wait to get under that tree and unwrap those presents, baby. He was Pete Carroll pumped and jacked from the booth. Maybe a little bit too much. All right, let's quickly run through just position groups. I want to ask you good or bad, indifferent. Secondary, good or bad, indifferent. How'd you feel?
Looking at my grades, I would say they were somewhat in the middle. I think they, made some plays. I would say they're, a solid like C. Like a guy like Jalen Hawkins, he gets a half an interception. That was actually one of Geno's worst plays. He threw it late and behind Bowers. He had another receiver in the area that he could have hit earlier, and then he just forced it. Nice play by Carlton Davis to tip the ball, but it was more of a bad play by Geno. Hawkins had a half a sack stuff. He had the touchdown. He gave up a 24-yarder to Jacoby Myers. He was all right. I would say Woodson didn't make much of an impact in the game. Didn't notice him very much. Davis had some good plays and bad plays. Austin Davis had some good plays, some bad plays. It was somewhat in the middle as far as, but look, no Christian Gonzalez. All the blitzes that they called, those guys are going to be on an island, and that's tough to do.
Yeah, and you hope, obviously, Christian Gonzalez, when he returns, you would imagine that would help, having Gonzalez out there to go along with Carlton Davis on the outside. Then you move Austin as the third corner. Defensive line, Greg. Milton Williams certainly made, to me, an impressive debut. Harold Landry put together a pretty darn good game. What was your thoughts about that D-line?
I thought that Harold Landry was outstanding in the game. That was not a surprise. He was good all summer. I thought Milton Williams was better live than he was on film. I would say he was good. I mean, I didn't have any negative plays for him. I had 3 impactful plays. I thought Christian Barmore was kind of hit and miss, a little bit more miss. He got shoved around a few times. He was not good on the Genty touchdown. He could not get off a block. Genty went right by him. That just can't happen. He needs to be better than that. He had some run gap issues. He did get a little bit of pressure. Kayvon Chason, I don't even remember seeing him on film, barely. Like, I don't have anything for him in the game. That was a surprise to me. Kyrus Tonga, in the reps that he had, and he didn't have very much, he was outstanding. Keon White was brutal. You want to talk about a guy who, they're talking about Drake Maye. Is there too much on his mind? Is he thinking too much? Keon White looked like he was trying to remember 15 different things on every play. He got killed a couple times. A couple times he got lost. Like, woof. Like, I don't know. That guy's having a crisis of confidence right now. They need to figure that out. But I would say overall, the group, I would say they were all right. I thought they did pretty well in the run game. They got gashed a little bit early. The pass rush was active. Again, way too much pressure and bringing linebackers and all this stuff and cornerbacks. But I thought they were decent. They were solid.
All right, let's wrap it up with this. The linebackers. Christian Ellis, man. To me, tough day. And I think a microcosm is you look at that 4th and 1, which was really the nail in the coffin. He's just lost in no man's land. There's 3 Patriot defenders who are right in front of Geno Smith as Geno Smith is rolling left. And Christian Ellis, for some reason, ends up kind of over pursuing Smith on the second level when there's 3 dudes right in front of him, and just completely loses Michael Mayer on a 4th and 1. Literally, to me, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not the all-22 guy that you are, but seemed to be the only responsibility of Christian Ellis was make sure Michael Mayer doesn't get open. And it's like 3 guys have Geno Smith. Hey, we got him, Christian. We got him. And he's kind of lost, and Michael Mayer slips out and converts on the 4th down, nail in the coffin. I also thought Spillane on a couple of occasions was shot out of a cannon and completely out of control. And one was on a 3rd down where there was a gap that he had to fill, and he runs directly into the pack at the defensive line.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the linebackers?
I did not think they were very good. I thought that Ellis, he had a nice pass tackle. He also drew a hold, and that was about the extent of his, good day. He had a brutal run gap early, a 9-yard run where he had no idea that the run was going in, and it was his hole that he was responsible for. He didn't even see it coming. He missed a couple tackles. I did not think he was good. I did not think Spillane was good either. If this is how they're going to use him as like a blitzer and doing X, Y, and Z, I don't know if this is really his game. I like Spillane a lot. We've talked a lot about him where I'm like, he's not a playmaker. Outside, he's very good in the pass game in terms of his drops. And the first pass of the game to Brock Bowers, he almost got. And he'll be better. He's one of these guys that is a film guru. He studies. You could see he plays with anticipation. He has been into the film. He understands when the quarterback does this or the formation or, the route concepts. Like, he understands where to get to. He gets his hands on a lot of balls in the pass game. But as far as, blitzing, going sideline to sideline on like a running back, that's not really his bag. And if they're going to ask him to be a dynamic playmaker from the middle of this defense, I think that's going to be a work in progress. And so I don't love that. We'll see if they sort of change things going on, but I did not think it was a great debut for the Patriots linebackers. And I think they put a lot on them. And I don't know if that's wise at this point.
All right, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. He's Greg. I am Nick. That'll do it for today. This has been the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles on CLNS. See you next time.